Hello and welcome to Die Rolling. I'm the ever excitable Adam and I'm joined tonight by my partner.
Is that a question?
I guess so.
Okay, I hope you know at this stage.
Well, I'd hope so as well.
Hi, I'm Seos.
Seos. So we have, about 10 minutes ago, we finished Charterstone, which is a legacy board game. And Seos, what is a legacy board game? How would you describe it to somebody who's not?
So I would say it's like a story that's continually developing. So you've got a basic starter point, and then at each game that you play, the rules change slightly, and it's like a developing story that you're playing in.
That's as good as explanation as that. So Seos isn't as into gaming as I am. Otherwise, we'd have like more walls that look like this behind us.
So far, I'm trying to curb his. Yeah.
So Seos is a really good kind of representation of what people would say is a non-gamer, someone who's not that heavily into games, who hasn't played many games, but who doesn't mind trying games out. So we picked up Charterstone. Well, force hard. You can't see the gun that I've got down below the screen at the moment, forcing her to be here for this. But yeah, so I picked this up for us both because I was looking for a game that we could play over a year or two, whatever. And I wanted to pick one which wasn't too hard on the learning curve. And I'd heard a lot of good things about Charterstone, so I picked up Charterstone for a decent price as well. So we're just going to go over a couple of things to give you an idea whether this is something that you should pick up, because I think during lockdown, whichever lockdown we're currently in at the moment, this is quite important to kind of keep yourself occupied, so you don't end up killing each other. Yeah. And I think games like board games can help you do that.
But then, depending on your relationship, it can also help things go the other way. You know?
So
depending on how competitive you are.
It's true. Luckily, I'm not very competitive, so that's great. So we're going to break down the game over a couple of things. So let's start with components.
Components? I feel like we should show some of them, should we?
Well, the problem we've got here is there's spoiler territory. There's certain things we could dig out.
Things,
so
like,
pass the box here and
the meeples we can show and those kind of things. Some of them.
Some of the resources.
The resources.
So this is the game itself, Charterstone, or the box of. It's quite a big box actually, quite heavy. So what would you say were the components in there, Seos?
We obviously got the board, which we can show, can we?
We can show the back of the board because this is double-sided. So you can, with the Legacy game, you only get to play this once. Well, the main story once anyway.
But the good people at Charterstone thought, in case you really wanted to play it again, they gave you a blank board on the back of it. So,
could you explain the gameplay to people while we're holding this up?
Oh god, okay. So the idea of Charterstone is that it's a worker placement game. Is that what
it is a worker placement game.
Oh.
Hello.
So you're essentially trying to colonize, the best word for it.
Yeah, I guess.
Different areas for a forever king.
For the forever king who sent you here to do this.
So we're basically trying to settle different lands and form villages and basically get victory points on the way. Basically
get victory points, yeah. So the artwork on this is pretty nice. And one of the things I'd kind of advise everybody who play this is really have a look at the artwork on here, because there's some kind of, like, not spoilery things, but there's some things in there which...
Like, Easter eggs, I suppose?
Easter eggs, yeah, I'd say that. So some things which might come into the game later, so examine that board, because probably in our third or fourth game, when we were a bit kind of curious about the storyline and where it was going, we both were noticing thing on the board and we're like, oh wait, is that to do with the plot?
In fairness, you noticed it and then I started looking. Okay.
So that's the board, so we'll just chuck that over here for the moment. We can't show the inside because that is all completed.
Yeah.
But here's some components from the game which we can show you.
Yeah. So I presume they're all the same quality, like all the games.
They would be, yeah.
So we've got some really lovely coins, and they're actually metal. So you get them depending on what you do in the game.
Yeah, so you earn some things. All the resources in this game. So we've got some clay resources there. We've got some wheat, which are like these kind of lovely shaped things here.
Grain rather than wheat.
Well, there we go. Agreed to disagree. We've got like some pumpkins in there. And the nice thing is all these baggies, did they come with the game? I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure they came with the game.
Can't show that. You got wood?
Yep. And should we show some of our meeples?
Yes. So you also, so everyone gets their own charter chest, which is that I can't show you either side of this because of spoilers, but it was basically, actually I can show you one of these.
It's really hard for like legacy games.
It's tricky.
Okay.
So you start off with something like this, which basically has all you need to start the game with. It's got all your kind of meeples that you're placing down. So Seos is playing the yellow character in this. So
yeah, I have my 2 little meeples, and they stood me well the whole game through. Yeah,
not the whole game, but most of the game.
Yeah, true.
And yeah, so you have those. You also have some little kind of influence. What shape is that?
How many sides does it have? 1, 2, 8 sides. Octagon.
Octagonal. Like tokens you put in there, markers, which kind of you play the game. But yeah, so component wise,
I think they're really nice. I think the coins are lovely, and I think they had a nice variety of components as well.
Because you're quite a tactile person, aren't you? You like the touch of things and the feel of things. So
a bit like Jamie, right?
Yeah. So like having like really kind of weighty coins, because these are quite weighty and they're really nice.
You feel like you're getting a coin. It's not just like a piece of cardboard.
Yeah. Which a lot of games you get is just cardboard, but in this it's like actual. There's a real weight to it there, isn't there? So component wise, I think we were both quite impressed with what you get in here. I mean, this game retails for around 45 to £60, I think. I got this for around £20. There's quite a few sales where you can get these kind of games in, and I luckily found one. But yeah, like I'd say for the price of just the retail game, what you're getting in this is quite good value.
I mean, given that it lasted us quite a while and there was a lot in it, I know we can't show it, but I really like the chests where like you get, depending on where you are in the story and what you do, you can open up other cards.
So we can show that. So
can we?
So the idea of most legacy games is you start off, like Seos said at the beginning, with like a clean slate. Everyone starts with the same game, with the same basic rule set. But then, depending what decisions you make and what kind of cards you place on board and the order those come out, new rules are added for the games, the subsequent games for that.
I feel like that's exactly what I said.
I mean, it is. I'm just reiterating this.
Yeah.
And what we have here is we've got an index box here, and in the index box you have you've basically got all these different like a table of different things you're going to open. So when you're constructing buildings, you'll have like when you're opening crates for buildings even, you'll have a little number here, and you find it in this little index here, and there's a bunch of cards which we can't show you in the index box, which add the new rules to the game. I'll put that back in there. All fits in quite nicely as well.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Okay, so component-wise, we're in agreement that where you get the money.
It's a nice game.
What about
and I would say, like, obviously, I don't buy board games because I have no need to with this one around, but so I have no concept of what how much is reasonable for a board game. But I feel like for £45, you get a lot in it. I feel like I wouldn't mind paying that much for that.
Yeah, because a lot of people there's a bit of a stigma around buying legacy games because a lot of people are like, I'm spending £45 and I'm only going to play a game once. This is ridiculous.
I mean, we've been playing it for about how long?
Well, a year and a bit, really.
Yeah,
maybe just over a year.
So I feel like we got our money's worth out of it.
And that's it. The thing is, I've got, as you can see, I have lots of games behind me and off to the sides and in another place, all dotted around the house. But the thing is, these games, I don't often get them to the table. Like, I mean, Lobotomy, I spent quite a lot of money on that at Kickstarter. I played it about 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 times. But this, I probably won't go back to that for a long time. And I would say with Charterstone, this is a game which, paying that much money, like £45 to £50, I think that's the same as if you bought a computer game and you completed that, or it's an experience which you have with other people. So I don't mind ripping cards up.
And then I know, I still feel kind of uneasy about it, but again, I haven't played that many board games. But I would also say that I feel like you probably get more out of this because you're coming back for the storyline and to figure out what's going on, and
you're invested in it, right?
Yeah, certainly after a certain amount of time, you're invested. So you just want to finish it up. So I mean, we've played 12 games of that.
12 games, yeah.
And it feels,
feels like forever.
Not necessarily, but like you would not necessarily play like a normal game 12 times.
Exactly, yeah.
Depending on the game, but yeah.
One other thing which we can't really talk about is, like I say, this is a spoiler-free review, or at least we're trying to be as spoiler-free as possible in case you do go out there and pick it up.
I know, but like we said, when we started the game, it was a long, long time ago, so I can't remember what's spoiler and what's not.
What I was going to say is there's, so, as we said, when you play some of these, when you play a new game session, the rules might change slightly. One in particular game, we had a new element brought into it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another component which we were not expecting to be in the game. It was in there, and it was just, it made that particular game really tense.
It was.
And fun. There's also some other stuff that I really wish I could tell you about, because it's it just kind of opens up your eyes to what else is going on.
But also, I think they did it really well. So like everything's in different chests in the box, so you didn't even like think that would be like a possibility of it being in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, can't give anything away.
Can't
but
give
like,
stuff away.
Like a few times when we found stuff in there, we were like, it was just kind of completely out of the blue.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
It's good, some good components.
And the artwork. What did you think to the artwork, the art style, that kind of thing? Because when you're looking at a board game, it's kind of like you do judge a book by its cover quite a bit. You like, if it looks nice on the table and the artwork's good, you tend to purchase it.
Yeah. I remember when we first started playing the game way back when that I wasn't actually that impressed with the artwork, more because the style is, I don't know how to put it, because it is lovely artwork, but when you're, I don't know.
Did you not feel like the style met the themes of the game?
A little bit. I kind of felt like it should be a little bit grittier, if that makes sense.
Well, interestingly,
like,
I kind of rebut all that, because to begin with, without spoilers in this, you bring into the game and you have like a certain expectation of what the game is going to be, but as it goes on, things don't quite add up. You're like, well, wait, this doesn't really make thematic sense. So
I would say no, even before that though, because when you sit down, you're thinking like everything is just a bit neat.
Yes.
Which
almost too neat though.
Almost too neat, yeah. But no, I just thought, personally, it isn't what I think I would have preferred something that was like a little bit different.
A bit more realistic as opposed to cartoony kind of.
Yeah. I think that's it. It feels a bit cartoony.
Yeah, and if I have time during the edit, I might just flash up a non-spoiler image of one of the cards. But if I don't have time to edit, you'll just have to take our word for it. I'll do a Google search.
But like generally, the artwork is nice and it's good quality. Like you can see that, and clearly they put a lot of time and effort. And the fact that like you say, we found some like bits and pieces in the artwork that was a bit more, that was really detailed into the game. I thought that was really nice. So by the end of it, I do really appreciate the artwork. I think it looks good and it is good quality. They've clearly put a lot of time and thought into it.
Clearly.
But it just wasn't what I was expecting.
Okay.
But essentially what I'm saying is don't be put off by the artwork if you see
there we
it
go.
and think it's
if you think it looks a bit kiddie-ish.
Yeah.
Or like, don't be fooled by this.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Sorry, what did you think of the artwork?
As far as I was concerned, the artwork was fine. And also, try not to go in spoileries territory here.
Spoileries.
It kind of lulls you into a false sense of security from the offset.
I feel like that's a big spoiler.
A bit spoilery. But like we said, things don't quite add up when you're playing this game.
Well, we were kind of questioning that from the start, weren't we?
Yeah, we were like, this seems too...
Yeah,
we've seen too many films to be...
We have, yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about gameplay then, because
Okay.
this isn't something, if you've not played what I would say is a modern board game before, so if you're more of a classical gamer, so I'm talking like you've played your Monopolies, your Risks, your Scrabbles, your Cluedos, or Clue, depending on which part of the world you're in, then this is a worker placement game. So you basically have, to begin with, you just have two little guys, you're placing them on the board, and they do different things.
Yeah.
So,
sorry, did you want me to have
I just explained it. Yes, Adam.
Okay. Yes.
So,
yes, you were right.
So, what were your thoughts on worker placement games then?
I enjoyed it.
Have we played worker placement games before?
I think we have. I know we've played. What was that one with the panda?
The one with a panda.
Do you know
Now,
what
it's very close to. It's either Takendo or Tokaido or something. There's two games very similar.
And then was
title.
Shalia worker placement?
Shalia's worker placement.
Yeah, but no, we didn't place any
Shalia's
workers.
not worker placement, no, because that's a tableau building game.
But I enjoyed
Carcassonne,
that.
you played that. That's kind of...
Yeah.
Is that worker placement?
I'm sure...
I'm just claiming territory. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think we've played worker placement games. In my mind, I've played more than this as a work placement.
Dining with Dracula.
Oh yeah!
We did play that,
that
yes.
was good. And
This one that I can remember we played.
I know, really, the list of the games I've played isn't that big. We should be able to come up with more than that. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the worker placement games. I feel like, so I've been thinking about this, and what I'm thinking is that in some ways I really liked it because there was lots of things to do. If we're talking about gameplay, so I really like there's lots of things that you can do throughout the game. But on the flip side of that, there's so many things you can do, and it can be really hard to focus on what you're trying to do and how that like all ties in with the narrative and what you're doing and why you're doing it. And sometimes you just feel like you're placing people just to get the victory point. Yeah.
That I'd say that's very true because it's very important when you have a game where you're trying, where the point of the game is to get victory points. That it's got to be that you don't just feel like you're just moving people around for the sake of getting points. It needs to feel thematic, right? Like you need to be immersed in that.
Yeah.
And I'd say I get your point because it is one of these games where you begin with like pretty much nothing on the board, and then as the game goes on, you're going to be creating buildings for your different charters, and then by the end, you've got so many options and so many ways to score victory points. And if you're playing a session and you're not especially switched on, or you're tired, that you could get quite cranky if you miss particular things.
You would get cranky.
No one.
Well, I think that's it really. And I think, like you say, at the beginning there was only a certain amount of things that you could do. You knew what you were trying to build your locations. You're trying to get a bit of a village going, and then as the game developed, like you say, there were so many options. There were so many things to do, and I don't know. I think there were a couple of games that were fantastic, and I really felt like, well, not more than a couple of games. I suppose there were a couple of games where I just felt like I was just going through the motions and just kind of like putting people down and not really getting like into it so much. But there were lots of other times that we played it where I was like, yes, I know what I'm doing. And especially towards the end, I felt like I was getting really competitive because I'm like, I know how to get a score VP here.
Exactly. So what would you say like the learning curve for this game is? Because obviously, like, it's for someone like me who's played, I can name at least one worker placement game I played, which was Dining with Dracula, but who's played at least 3 games in my life. It's fairly easy for me to pick this up, and I played legacy games before, so it's quite easy to pick up the idea of introducing new rules. Granted, with any game I play, 80% of the rules were correct, 20% probably not. But yeah, from my perspective as an experienced gamer, I would say that this is something anyone should be able to pick up. It's quite low bar entry level. But as someone who hasn't played a million games, what do you think?
I think generally it was pretty good. Again, there were a few points where I think I'm kind of lucky because Adam's you're very kind, aren't you, when you're playing games? No, like you really, because you want everyone to enjoy it. So you'll like, if you could see that I could do something, you would tell me, oh, you might want to like have a look, or do you know that you could do that? And half the time I'd be like, yes, of course I know, and then do it. I really didn't know. But I think if I wasn't playing with you, or there were lots of other people involved, I think I would have missed quite a lot of points. I think I would have struggled a little bit, not massively, but I think there was a lot that I could kind of pick up on. But,
yeah, I think it's interesting you said about me kind of helping you out with some of the moves in there, because this is a game that could suffer an alpha player. Do you know what alpha player is, Seos?
I do.
What's an alpha player?
It's someone who basically plays your turn for you.
Plays your turn for you.
Yeah.
Well, great. I come around for your house to play board games, and I just get to sit and watch you do it.
Yeah.
So it's this is a game that could suffer from an alpha player if you have. I mean, it is a competitive game. You are on the same side in this.
It is competitive, but it doesn't feel really competitive. I think initially, anyway, it didn't feel really competitive.
Yeah, because you're very much focusing on your own little area, but as the game goes on, you're growing out, and you're seeing other people's charters and thinking, oh, I could use that building to score points. But yeah, this is something I think you could, if you have the wrong mindset going into this, it might not be a great experience for you.
Yeah.
But I think learning curve. So let's say you were to, would you recommend this learning curve wise to people of our parents' age who hadn't really played a modern game? Not necessarily your parents, but just like people of parents' age. What would you recommend it to them? Do you think it's something they could pick up, or is it too like out there, too dissimilar to classic games?
I wouldn't want to play that with someone who wasn't who didn't know like much about gaming. I think there's a lot of setup. I think there's a lot of rules, which, you know, it makes it a good game, you know, it changes things, but I wouldn't.
It'd be a bit frustrating.
It would be frustrating, and I feel like, you know, you've read a few rule books in your time.
I've glossed over most of them.
I mean, I didn't say you absorbed them, but you've read them.
Just watch my aliens videos, you'll see.
But yeah, so I think that really helps, where someone like me, if I was leading that, there's no way that I would have gotten all of that right. I think I would have gotten quite frustrated as well. Yeah. But I think that's maybe to do with my personality more than anything.
Well, there we have it.
But what do you think?
Well, the thing is, so rules-wise, it's fairly simple to begin with, but I do recall having to go back at the rules, and I wasn't quite sure if you're playing it right at some points. And when you do have like a game where the rules are split up because you're getting introduced new rules into different areas, you can have a lot of questions coming out there which aren't covered by the rule book. And you don't want to go online to ask the question, because if you're playing a game which is a legacy game, there's a high chance you're going to find spoilers in there.
Oh, I just remembered something else that happened, but again, I can't say it.
Oh, it's a spoiler.
It's a spoiler. Never mind.
Oh, okay. What was it? Yeah, that's yeah.
And that was quite cool as well. And
yes, the thing we just whispered, she just whispered me, was really cool, guys. You definitely get it because of this. So okay, so we spoke about the gameplay, the components, the learning curve. I guess give me 2 things you really enjoyed about this game? Or if it's easier, 2 things you disliked about this game.
So the components were great, but do you mean like from gameplay?
No, from anything about this game at all. What would you say the 2 things that really stood out about this particular game that you really enjoyed?
I think the plot was good. I think we were both kind of intrigued as to how the story was going to develop, and then we were both, like you say, because we've watched a lot of movies, we kind of were coming up with our own ideas of how this is going to go, and was it going to turn bad, or was it going to go okay? How
close did we get?
I think we did pretty well.
We were pretty close.
Yeah.
So plot, that was a big like selling point for this for you.
Yeah. I suppose I just liked that there were a lot of things that you could do in each game. You could, there's a lot of ways that you could win the game, and I enjoyed that sometimes we were both focused on very different aspects of the game in like how we were going to win. And because like I say, there's lots of options, so it wasn't like we were both going for the same things all the time. We weren't, because I think that would have like wound me up a little bit if like I kept on trying to.
I think there's a few points where like one of us would beat the other person to the thing we were trying to achieve. We hadn't noticed what they were doing, and when you play games like this competitively, you are like, oh damn you! But it was fine because there's always more options.
Yeah, exactly, and it wasn't like that was the only one thing that you could do, and then once someone else achieved it, you were scuppered for the rest of the game. So yeah.
So they're the two things you enjoyed about it. The different options you had to kind of score points and things you could do in your game, and also the plot.
Yeah. What about you?
Okay, so the two things I really enjoyed about this. So I would probably agree with you on plot for the first thing, because for me, like, you can probably tell by the games I have behind me if you know what these games are. Theme is everything for me. Like, if it's thematic and the gameplay mechanics go into that, that's great. And I thought this was a really interesting game plot-wise. Hadn't got the most interesting gameplay in there. You know, you're moving people around, but it was, really fun plot, trying to guess what was going on. It was nice because we were interacting, like talking about it after the game had finished, like, wow, what's going on here? What's going to happen? And it kind of brings you back to the table, you know, wanting to find out what happens. You're invested in it, which is really important with a game that you're going to play 12 times. It's got to kind of get your interest.
Definitely.
And I would say for most legacy games I have played, the plot is the thing that keeps getting me come back. Pandemic Season 1's a great... Sorry, just glazing over now.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Pandemic,
I'm well used to it.
Pandemic Season 1 is I would say it's one of the best legacy games out there because the plot is so good. Pandemic is a very easy game to pick up. Once you've played it like 5-6 times, you probably won't go back to it ever again. Unless you're introducing new people to gaming and it's something everyone can enjoy playing. But the legacy plot in it was amazing. And you had some nice twists in there. So same with this. Twists, turns, and it was also nice because it kind of, without spoilers, depending on what you do, the storyline branched in different ways, which means how we played this game and how our friends Ben and Alyssa played the game are probably going to be totally different. So that'll be quite interesting. So that's my first thing was plot. Second thing would be player interaction. So you'd mentioned shows how we at points we were just kind of focusing on our own thing. And quite a few games that these days kind of suffer in the sense that you're kind of playing your own game and you're not really interacting with anyone else at the table. Like you got 5 people at the table and everyone's playing their own game. Whereas in this, I kind of felt like even though we did have our own strategies and ways to do things, we were still able to interact with each other and you know, scupper people's plans. But there wasn't too much of a take that element where you know, like anyone felt really hard done by. I mean,
but then I wonder again whether that's just because you want me to play more board games, so you do.
Oh no! I always want to make sure people are enjoying themselves at the table, and I'm the first person to do a dick move if I can do a dick move. But yeah, it was I think it worked out well. So that's the two things we both really enjoyed about it. Josephine, what 2 things did you not enjoy about this game?
Well, sorry, can I take it?
Yeah, you can. I'm not editing this, so this is all be
lovely.
So, shows. What 2 things did you not enjoy?
So, I think I kind of already mentioned it a little bit, but you'll probably cut that out, so we'll see. But I think I've already kind of touched on it. But I think because there's so much you can do, sometimes the plot kind of got a little bit lost in it, and you were just kind of doing things for the sake of doing things. Like I say, there wasn't a lot of that. I think most games, you know, we both kind of had a bit of a focus on what we wanted to do. But yeah, I do think there was occasions where I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just putting people down and trying to get those VP. But yeah, so I think the fact that I really enjoyed the plot, I kind of wish it was entwined a little bit more into what we were doing. But I don't know if you'd agree with that, or whether you felt like that's kind of about what you'd expect in terms of a legacy game and what. Yeah,
I guess thinking of other ones I've played. So Betrayal Legacy has more in it where you actually actively change the plot. Like certain cards you tick and stuff will affect the game.
Okay.
But Pandemic was a lot more like, oh, there's a general plot. No matter what you do, this plot is going to happen. Okay. I did feel in this we did have a bit more interaction with the plot, but I agree with you. I don't feel some of those sessions it just kind of felt like stuff was happening.
Yeah.
You were moving stuff for the sake of moving stuff.
Yeah. And that we were just ticking off another game, but it didn't feel like and maybe that's unfair of me because it's been a while since we first started it, so I certainly can't remember all of the games and how they each changed. But at the same time, I do feel like there were some of them that I came away from just feeling like, yeah, that was all right, but I wasn't especially enthused about them. But overall, that's kind of nitpicking a little bit. Overall, I think it was quite good.
Okay, well, we're talking about negatives now. So your second negative.
Can you give
you want me to come back to you? It's tricky, right? It's tricky coming up with it. So I was just thinking. So rules. This is what I was going to say. So I also brushed over this. It's tricky when you have a rule book which you don't have all the rules from the offset, and they introduce new elements to it, and the rules are only in like about that. I mean, you get about 3 sentences, maybe 2 paragraphs of rules in there.
Show, I suppose.
Probably not at this point because we've stuck over lots of things.
1 and 2, or no, we could even show over those. Can we say about what happened at the end of the game? That they basically introduced a way to play the game rather than a legacy game. They allowed it to. So
it's very tricky to show anything.
What about from the first 2 pages? Cause
they've been stuck back over. That's the thing.
Okay.
So.
No, you
folding this up.
Oh no.
Right. Okay. So yes, that's fine. So on here you can see this is the kind of size you get of kind of rule text, and it does look like there's quite a lot of information there, and there is. But the problem is sometimes you don't really get enough information. There's a few questions, and a few times we probably played this game incorrectly because we've just had to kind of make a house rule on it and go, yeah, okay, well, we're just going to have to do this. And
yeah, you're right. Actually, we did do that a couple of times.
Case in point with that is the fact we were playing. This game can play up to 6 players. You can play it solo if you want to as well, if you're that kind of person. But we were playing it 2-player, and they have a mechanic in here so that the other charters, so the other areas on the board, get filled up with other buildings.
Sorry, I've just come up with my next negative.
There we go. So it wasn't quite clear about what we were supposed to be doing with that, and there was just a lot of kind of, I don't know, shrugs involved. By the end of it, we had a bunch of buildings to build, but nowhere to build them because you can only build in your own charter, unless we played that completely wrong. But yeah, there was, so the rules for me, for a legacy game, they were decent rules. For a worker placement game, fine rules. But yeah, there was quite a lot of gaps and a lot of house rules had to be kind of made. And I don't think that's just because I gloss over rule books. I think that's just generally... I mean, I read it hard to try and figure out what we were supposed to do.
Okay.
So what's your second one then, Chase?
Sorry. So my second one, again, leading into what you just said, is about the empty charters. So the ones that we didn't play with, which we did populate to a point. But a lot of them felt like we were missing out on things just because they weren't being populated. And I think it would have been a very different game if there were more of us playing.
Yeah.
Would you
I agree completely with that. Yeah. I think which comes into my second negative, and
go ahead.
This is set me up. So it comes down to the fact that, like we said, when you're playing a legacy game, new components are added in each kind of game you're playing. Sometimes halfway through you get new components added in there. And some of the components we didn't get to actually even play with until like the 10th or 11th game out of 12. Yes, and it just kind of was a bit frustrating because they seemed like they were quite cool ideas, but because we had chosen particular charters and because other buildings didn't quite come out, there wasn't really much we could do. Plus, at the end of the game, we had a ton of like building cards which were just sitting there clogging up this deck, which we were trying to get all these things to get us victory points out. But yeah, we couldn't build anything because we didn't want to build over our own charters. So it's really frustrating. You had all these really nice, interesting looking buildings which we'd never play with. But the nice thing is there is that replayability in the sense that you can... So with this game, you can basically buy a recharge pack, which is all the stickers, all the cards, and I think it's around probably about £20, so how much I spent for this. And yeah, basically you flip the board over and you can play another game. Would you play another game from scratch?
What, like that?
That game, for 12 games, let's say instead of just the 2 of us, we had 4 people playing it, is this something you would invest another 12 games in?
No.
Okay.
Not.
I don't think I would either, to be fair. Like,
Sorry.
I kind of dip in and out of a game of this, but I wouldn't want to do 12 more sessions of it.
No, and it's not because I'm like fed up of it or anything. It's more just like I feel like I've done it and
it's done.
It's done. It's done. It's
because by the end the plot's completed itself as well. There's nothing to bring back. They do have rules, and they're like you kind of mentioned, to kind of enable you to play this game again. Using the components you have there.
Yeah.
But
like rather than a legacy game.
Rather than a legacy game, you can just play Charterstone as the end board kind of ended. And most legacy games now have that, to be fair. I
might do that. I might especially if I was playing with someone. For me, again, because I don't read rule books. If I was trying to introduce someone to a game and I thought, well, I know how this one works, I might play that as a one-off with someone if I was trying to get them into it a bit. Yeah. Yeah. But otherwise, no, I wouldn't spend another 12 games. Yeah. But I feel like, it's done, and it was good.
And I'll be honest, that's how I felt with legacy games I played in the past. Pandemic Legacy Season 1, I think you can replay that, but there's no point. The world's destroyed at that point, to be fair. And Risk Legacy, the first legacy game I played, that is probably one I would have played again, but instead my dad won that game, so we framed it for him. So unless I pull it off the wall, we're not playing that again. Okay, so let's just summarise then. So overall, normally we kind of grab components out of the box, but we can't really grab out any components which I feel would be...
Yeah, I mean, we already showed a lot of them. I suppose we can show some of the... like those bits? Can we?
No, we do. Normally we pick something out of the box to go, oh, we would rate this particular thing.
Oh, right, sorry. Right? I know what you mean.
So, but to be fair, this is more of a discussion than a review, so we're just kind of discussing our thoughts at the end of 12 sessions. I think, although, I wouldn't play this game again, I think that this is definitely, for, the price you're paying for this, especially in these hard kind of social distancing times, although clearly we're not, but we're in a bubble. I think this is I think this is the kind of thing that, would be really worth your time to kind of sit down, play a bunch of these. And the nice thing is you've got a shared experience at the end of it. Right? What is life if not a bunch of shared experiences?
That's absolutely true.
Games of Charterstone. So would you...
What's the point of life without Charterstone?
So would you recommend this to people to play, buy, or would you tell them don't bother?
No, I would recommend it. Definitely.
To play or buy?
Both.
Both.
I mean, you have to buy it before you play it. Right?
Well, you could play this in a board game cafe, but it's a legacy game, so you probably get there and it's 3 games done. And you're like,
but no, I would recommend it. It's a good one. We got into it. I know it took us quite a while to play, but that's more trying to convince me to play a board game rather than anything else. Yeah, would you recommend it?
I definitely recommend this. I think it's good value for money. The components are lovely in it. The game itself is fairly simple to pick up. And the plot is, it's quite an interesting plot. So, So I think that's
it.
That's it. Do you have any final thoughts to say on it?
No, I feel like we should light a pyre for it though, or something.
I mean, we should just set this on fire now.
I feel like it's done its job, and that's it.
That's it. Let's take it out back and shoot it. That's it. So thank you for joining us for this discussion on Charterstone. We will, I'd love to put some pictures up about this, but we don't want to do spoilers.
You could probably take a few shots out of them.
A couple of shots. A couple of shots, and then just throw them now at this point, just over the screen. I won't. I'm just going to load this up as it is.
You are not.
Probably will. Thank you very much for watching this and just listening to us both waffle on. And
no, sorry, you definitely have to edit this. People can't listen to us for 40 minutes.
Oh, people will. Or people would fast forward to this point and be like, oh, what do they recommend? Do they, they think it's good or not? But yeah, that's life. So, thank you for joining us. I've been your host, Adam.
And I'm Seos.
Don't ask how to spell it. I'll put the name up here, but it'll be in question marks.
No, don't.
People are like, what?
No one needs that. They just want to know about a board game. They don't need
No
to
one cares
know.
about us. So if you've liked this video, please like and subscribe to our various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and of course YouTube. And yeah, leave us a comment. Tell us if you've played this game. No spoilers. If you played this game, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, or if there's any other Legacy games you played which you recommend that the both of us should try out.
No, thank you. No, that's all right. You
Until
can keep those comments to yourself. Thank you.
Just message me. Until next time, guys, stay safe and keep rolling.